Welcome everyone to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And tonight we have a great show for you in store. We have me, it's just going to be me and my dad today, and we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers and Cardinals game, and we're going to talk about a lot of the injuries that's happened this past week. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back, everyone, to Jazz's First Impression Sports Talk. This past week on Thursday Night Football, my Green Bay Packers took a visit to the Arizona Cardinals, the undefeated Arizona Cardinals. Now, to me, I was one of those biggest people. I support my team, but I just didn't feel that my team was going to win that game with all the people that were missing, Devontae Adams, MVS, and Alan Lazard. I was really, really nervous about this whole game. But we pulled it off. I was really shocked that we pulled off against a great team in their stadium. So, Dad, I want to start with you. What was the biggest takeaways from that game with the Arizona Cardinals and the Packers?
Well, my biggest takeaway is the Green Bay Packers' defensive philosophy in that game, because there was no indication that they were going to be able to slow the Cardinals down the way they did. And if you had told me that Devontae Adams wasn't going to play, and they were going to still win that game, I would have really said you're probably crazy. And I will say this: even though it got kind of tight down there at the end with the mishap with AJ Green and the cornerback intercepting to close out the game, the Green Bay Packers could have ended the game a little bit earlier than that. And if the Packers play that way, and especially defensively, because we know what Aaron can do, but if they play that way defensively, they're going to be a tough team to deal with down the stretch, because you have that pedigree, you have that quarterback that can take you the distance. He is a Super Bowl winner, and he's always, around that MVP talk. He's always putting up those big numbers. So I just think that the Packers, as the season goes on, I think they're just catching fire and they're starting to roll. So we're going to really have to keep a close eye on them, because they could really be special this year, especially to close out the year.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, being that you said the defense, we're missing a lot of our top defenders. We're missing our number one corner, Jair Alexander, and we're missing our pass rusher, Zadarius Smith. So those are big key people on our defense that we're missing, and we were able to go in Arizona and play the way we did against Kyler Murray and kind of keeping him contained and getting turnovers. That was a big thing. And then for Aaron, like you said, Aaron knows how to get the ball to these guys. And to be honest, Dad, he didn't even throw the ball a lot in that game. It was a lot of run. It was like a lot of dink and dunk, like that kind of Brady.
True. Well, their game plan was, it was special to watch. That was old school football, because it wasn't a throwing the ball all over the field attack. They grinded out. They ran the ball exceptional with those two running backs alternating in and out, and they had very long drives. I don't know the exact numbers of the time of possession, but I know that they really, really took it. They were almost taking half the quarter away with just one drive, and they were capitalizing at the end of those drives with scores. So, when you have the team that can play keep away and score at the end, it's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I was really excited that we got that win, and just those guys are starting to come back. And not to mention, one big piece on our offense, not just the receiving core, but we were missing our number one tackle, David Bakhtiari, and he's probably our best tackle, and we missed him. And for us to still be able to protect Aaron the way we did, and that give Aaron the time that he needed to get the ball down the field when he needed to, let the running game get off to the way it did, that was a big thing. So, Dad, being that we're going to get into the Rams now. So the Rams and Packers play later in a couple of weeks. Rams come visit Lambeau. Rams just made a huge splash today by signing Von Miller. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so me being a Von Miller fan, of course, you guys know I'm a Bucs fan, but I'm also a Broncos fan. I really like Von Miller's style of play. Now, he's not what he was a couple years ago, but he's still probably one of your best defensive ends out there, because of he uses speed and leverage. And I just, when I look at them adding him, to that defensive line with an already pretty stout defense with Donald in the middle and him on the outside, their stock just went up. I mean, I'm looking at, you're talking about extra possession, you're talking about heavy edge pressure, not to mention what they have on the back end with Ramsey and those other guys out there. I just look at that, just made the Rams that much tougher to play, because now with the acquisition of Von Miller, he's going to create activity, especially whether it's swatted balls, turnovers. He even has the ability to sometimes drop out and guard in the flats. I mean, he's a guy that can cover a lot of different bases for them. And he's going to put a lot of pressure on defenses, because when you got Donald doing what he consistently has done, and you look at what Vaughn does, now who do you double team? What do you do? And the other guys on their line are not scrubs either. So I just think that you really got to look at this team now a little bit differently. I mean, they were already in the Super Bowl talks, but now this even puts them deeper into that conversation, because it's going to be hard if he comes in and he produces like we know Von Miller can. They're going to be a tough team to beat down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree. And with that, like for me, being that the Rams got him, that D-line, so you have Von Miller on the one side, then Leonard Floyd on the other, then Aaron Donald in the middle. Like that is just ridiculous. That's a ridiculous front. But my thing is, the only question I have is, we've seen the past years, Von Miller has had injuries. Now that's always a question. That's always okay, can he be healthy? Can he be reliable? So that's going to be the biggest question. But for the Rams to get him, that's a huge, huge deal. And especially they're in the same division with running quarterbacks. You have Trey Lance, which I think he'll be starting soon, running quarterback. Of course, Russell Wilson, and then of course Kyler Murray. So of course you wanted to add somebody on the defensive front to kind of contain those guys. So when you do play them, you can contain them, and then like you said, get extra possessions for your offense. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But the biggest question is, can Von Miller stay healthy? He has had very significant injuries since that Super Bowl that they won when Peyton Manning was there. So we're going to definitely see what this team is about. But we're going to go on to the next segment to talk about the big injuries that have occurred this past weekend. We'll see you guys in a few minutes. We'll be right back.
Water. It's everywhere. We drink it, we bathe with it, we cook with it. Coffee's made with water. Toilets won't flush without it. It's used for washing clothes, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, floors, and our teeth. Plants and crops need water, animals drink it, and fish need it too. And don't forget, we can have a lot of fun in the water. Water. What will we do without it? You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk. Stay in touch with Jasmine on her social media channels to see videos, featured guest interviews, and much more. Find Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. On Instagram, it's at GameSpace_sports. And you can find Jasmine on YouTube by searching GameSpace Sports Content. First Impression Sports Talk airs each Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can see the show live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you missed the live show, we have you covered. A recorded version is always available on social media. And now, back to more First Impression Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And to wrap up the night, we're going to talk about some of the biggest injuries that occurred. So, Dab, we've seen this past weekend, J.J. Watt, Derrick Henry, Jameis Winston. A lot of guys, a lot of big-name people got injured this year. And even DeAndre Hopkins, he's still hobbling on his hamstring. What is the biggest injury to you, Dad, to where it could heavily affect the team?
Well, the way these teams are playing now, it's hard to say, because it seems like the next man up philosophy has been working well. I mean, if you look at what happened with the Saints, I mean, they just lost Jameis Winston to an ACL injury, and he plugged the other Simeon plugged right in. Might I tell you, Simeon did play decently for a little while at the Broncos. It wasn't consistent, but he still had some decent games with the Broncos. But he came right in, and their system and their defensive play kind of overrode some of some of their key players being absent. But I'm going to say I would closely watch the injury to the tight end for Green Bay. The reason I'll say that is because of what they do. The tight end's a big deal, and I forgot about this one. We don't know how bad the injury is to Kyler Murray, because during that game, it's beautiful to see these guys who are mobile, but a lot of these guys who are running around mobile, they're not big guys. And you got to think they're taking on hits from guys who are, quite a bit bigger than they are. And, they're in positions to where their durability can be impacted because if you're 190 pounds, you're not meant to be getting run into by guys that are 250 pounds, 300-pound guys. You're just not meant for that to happen. And I think that they got to really be careful with these guys. Even Lamar Jackson, he's doing well right now. But these guys got to be careful with protecting themselves when they're scrambling, because the ones like, I think Russell Wilson was one of the best at that. I know he injured his finger, but Russell Wilson really perfected that to me. He wasn't faster than everybody, but he was fast enough. But he always seemed to get down before the impact, which you can tell by his longevity and how consistent he's been. So I think these guys, really got to look out for that. And also you got to look at it. There's a lot of injuries that are happening, non-contact injuries. Guys are running and just blowing out knees or whatever. And I think that people really got to take a look at their workout regimens. Are we stressing certain parts of our bodies too much, or certain areas of our bodies not getting worked properly or evenly enough to where we're creating these extra issues, when we get out there, and try to plant or make a quick move and we end up blowing it out, blowing out a knee or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, us losing Tonya was a big deal because of what he stands for. But I feel that we can pick up someone. We do have Mercedes Lewis back there, who's a very good blocker, and he's a veteran.
Absolutely.
He knows how to catch. He knows how to do a lot of good things. So I feel like, and we also have Joshua DeGora, who's really good also.
Yes.
He's kind of like Tonyan. It's just he can be injury prone, but I feel like he's played a lot of big minutes this year for blocking and doing different things like that. But to me, the biggest injury that I feel is going to heavily affect the team is Derrick Henry. Having surgery this week, and he's going to be out from 6 to 10 weeks. That offense runs through him, and man was that I believe he was on pace to average like 500 carries. Like he was on pace for that, and that's ridiculous. And they just signed Adrian Peterson. I don't know. I don't think he's going to have that same impact Derrick Henry has. He's a veteran. We know what Adrian Peterson stands for, but it's not Derrick Henry.
That's true.
Derrick Henry was the sole he was the offense of that team. Like it ran through him. It was based off of him. Whatever went right with him, that's how the offense ran. And to me, Tannehill is a veteran. Tannehill can throw, but he has not been consistent at going down the field. And they do have weapons. It's not like they don't have weapons, but Derrick Henry was their workhorse. He put them in big situations. He was able to put them in the best chances of winning. So by them losing him, that's a very big blow to them. And it's going to be hard for them to beat the teams like the Titans, the Ravens, the Bengals.
One thing the Chargers
is going to be very difficult for them to beat them.
One thing I want to say about that, though. So with Tannehill, and you just mentioned it, the consistency. So now with the way of the league, hey, maybe it's time. I mean, Tannehill, let's see what you can do. Let's see if you can be consistent down the stretch, because it doesn't change the fact of what you have to do. I mean, now you have, and me and you've talked about this before, big running backs in the history of the NFL haven't lasted that long. And that's because they're a big target. Derrick Henry is a freak of nature. I really like his style. But if you look at the history of these large running backs, and especially with the amount of pounding they're doing with this guy, the whole offense, I think that they're doing a disservice to him. You got to incorporate a much better game plan to save these pieces, because if people know that, hey, we're gonna line up 8-man box or whatever else, we're gonna hit him, we're gonna keep running him. Teams are gonna gear up for that, and then they're gonna make you, hey, you're gonna have to beat us over the top. And I think that for Derrick Henry, you should have one of the most flawless play action teams in the league. And I think with him as well, you got to incorporate, and I think they have a little bit, but a guy like him, you got to have a little bit more of him getting out into space. And yeah, you want to have that balance of him going between the tackles because of his size, but we're in a league where now, you're going to need those guys down the stretch, which means we got to figure out different ways to protect them health wise. And I think that limiting carries will, because it's not going to matter. I mean, right now, yeah, you got to win. But what's going to happen when we get into the closer to the playoffs, or trying to, get these playoff spots? You're really going to have these workhorses in place to battle. And if they're getting injured because we're beating them up throughout the early part of the season, then, we might not have them available when we really need them.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, I think this is out of his career, and I think he's been in for 4 to 5 years, I believe. This is his biggest injury. I think this is his biggest injury he's ever had. Having to get surgery and missing a lengthening amount of time when playoffs is getting closer. It's not there yet, but it's getting close, and you're trying to compete for seed, and you're trying to compete for who's going to be the number 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed. And the Titans are winning their division. I think they're up by 3 games, so it's not like they can still keep winning and still win that division. But without Derrick Henry to compete for that next level, to beat a Bills team, to beat a Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, to beat even a Bengals, if they, that they continue to win, that is going to be very tough for them to beat a team like that, beat teams like that without Derrick Henry. He's a huge
every
piece
team you just
of
mentioned,
that offense, because to me, do not believe Tannehill can out-duel Josh Allen. I don't believe it. I don't and I'm going to be honest, I don't think he can outbeat or he can out-duel Joe Burrow. I don't think so. I've seen enough of Tannehill to where, I feel like he hasn't been as consistent. And it's not like they don't have the weapons. They do, but he is not consistent. They don't really trust Tannehill, because, they gave Derrick Henry the ball constantly. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And Dad, I got one more question for you.
Uh-huh.
Will the Browns trade Odell?
Man, I mean, my thing about Odell is kind of it's kind of darn if you do, darn if you don't type thing, because Odell, at one point was very electrifying, and then you get, mesmerized about what he was and what the possibility and what the potential is. But Odell hasn't really been that guy for a number of years now. You'll see flashes here and there. You'll see him do a few things here and there. But to me, he's fallen out of that top receiver spot to where, is he even the guy that he was? Is it even worth worth all the hype and all those types of things? Because he was that dynamic player, but he suffered quite a few injuries. He's had some off the field issues to where, it created some distractions. And now we're talking about trading him. Does a team want to take on that baggage? Is he going to come out there and actually produce? Is he going to stay healthy? There's a lot of questions with Odell in that. And even though when Odell was good, I mean, hey, I liked Odell. He was electrifying when he was playing. But when have we seen that electricity? Have we seen it recently? I don't even remember. So at this point, I wonder if other teams are going to be thinking the same way. And are these other teams going to be willing to give up a big amount of, whether it's draft picks or whatever else, to pay him, if they haven't even seen that resume over the last few years? And I think it's going to be kind of tough for him if teams are not like, well, we don't really, we got guys who are serviceable. Yeah, he may still be good, but this is what we've seen over the last several years, is him doing this or him being injured or whatever else. So, we'll see. But, I mean, they probably will. And the fact that the Browns are willing to trade him is kind of an indictment as well, because why would you want to trade him if he's, being that productive for you?
Yeah, I agree. And for me, I don't think Odell and Baker have ever gotten to a good connection anyway, because even when Odell got injured last season, they went on a whole run without him, and they went, I think divisional round in the playoffs. So they went on a whole run without him, and and Baker was on a roll. But as soon as Odell is back in the lineup, there's always, I'm trying to force feed him. And the connection just never meshed. And I feel like it would be better for both Odell and Baker to just part ways. I feel like Odell, he's right now, to me, maybe top 15 receivers. Right now, maybe top 20. But I think that we got so caught up in that catch and what, the possibility of the different looks, the different, the whole diva look. And, like, oh, this guy could be, and we have not seen Odell live up to those standards. I feel like he can be a good receiver. He is a good receiver, but it's just the diva, the antics. Like, what can we get outside of that? Can you just play football? And it's going to be hard. Do teams want to deal with that? Do you guys want to put up with this kind of person? So we'll definitely see you, Dad. But that wraps up tonight's show. Thank you, Dad, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and showing your support. Thank you, Jay, for the production. Thank you, Leon. It's always a pleasure. And we'll see you guys here on Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk next Monday at 8:30. Have a good night.